Hi everyone, I'm Ermanno Petrocchi, a PhD candidate in AI Ethics at the University of Macerata, and welcome to my second class of the course Technology and Digitalization of Civic Participation. And today we're going to make, in today's class, we're going to make a deep dive in the risks and regulations of artificial intelligence systems. I'm going to share the slides and then we can start the class. All right, here we are. And today, as I said, we are going to analyze the risks and the regulations of artificial intelligence systems. All right, this is a summary of our class. We are going to focus and identify the known and new risks posed by artificial intelligence systems, and then we will detail the most important AI regulations, starting from the European Union guidelines for trustworthy artificial intelligence, which are based on 4 guiding principles: autonomy, harm prevention, fairness and explainability, and 7 ethical requirements, from which some operational guidelines for integrating ethics into design and development of artificial intelligence can be derived. After that, we will focus on the AI-Act, Artificial Intelligence Act, promoted by the European Union, which is the first legally binding regulation on artificial intelligence. So we can start with section 1, related to AI risks. And we can start by saying that there is an ethical lag of artificial intelligence because, yeah, as we saw in class 1, AI has become extremely pervasive in our daily lives. It influences how we work, how we communicate, and we make decisions. However, the development of artificial intelligence has not been accompanied by an equal evolution in the ethical and regulatory frameworks. Indeed, there is a big problem that AI technologies, the development of artificial intelligence has progressed rapidly, but the ethical guidelines and laws have lagged behind. And so this delay has created a situation in which potential harms are only recognized after the systems are in use, and so the harm is already done. And this is called the chasing effect, in which ethics and governance constantly chase the technology development instead of anticipating the artificial intelligence systems' impact and consequences. And so this reactive approach makes it difficult to prevent AI harms, the different types of AI harms. And these are the known risks, the so-called known risks, because they are, artificial intelligence shares, we can say, these risks with other type of technologies. And some of these risks are discrimination, because AI systems are trained on biased data and then can produce discriminatory outcomes. An example of this is facial recognition systems that have shown to make an higher error rates for people with darker skin tones. And of course, you can understand how this is discriminatory. Another risk is that related to opaque decision making, because many AI systems, as we said, also this one in class 1, many AI systems are black boxes, and we don't know precisely how they make their correlations, inferences, and so how they produce their outputs. And this lack of explainability limits trust, of course, accountability and contestability also. Another risk is that of privacy violation. AI systems often rely on massive amounts of data, of personal data, and this can be collected without informed consent or adequate safeguards. The last extremely important risk is that of polarization, because algorithms are optimized for engagement and then can push users into the so-called echo chambers, which are environment that reinforces existing beliefs and increase social division. And so these risks are affecting our society, are affecting our lives, and so they shouldn't be underestimated. These instead are some emerging risks that emerging because they follow the technological development of artificial intelligence. Indeed, as AI technology advances, it's also new risks arise. And some of these derives from the spread of deepfakes and synthetic media, because AI-generated content can mimic real people with extreme realism, and this undermines trust, of course, in the audiovisual medium, as we will see in class 6. We will focus on this problem. And another risk is epistemic erosion, because if people can no longer distinguish between true from false information, then the foundations of our public discourse and our democracy are at risk. Another concern relates to autonomous weapons, because AI systems can be integrated, can be embedded in military technologies, and this raises profound ethical concerns about responsibility, escalations, and compliance with humanitarian law. The last emerging risk that I want to mention is economic displacement, because AI and automation threaten many jobs, especially those involving repetitive tasks, and this may increase inequality, social unrest if this risk is not properly managed. And so these, we need to bear in mind that these are not hypothetical or future risks, but they are developing now. And so these demand an immediate attention. So these, the ethical lag in artificial intelligence has been called the chasing effect, because that is a concept, a term that refers to the tendency for ethics and regulation to come after technology once the technology has already been developed and deployed. An example is that of social media platforms that were launched and grew massive user bases before any real reflection on the psychological and political impact that these platforms have. And so the harm, once has been identified, it was already in place. And so the result is that we find ourselves trying to fix problems after the damage has been done. So the ethical governance should work in parallel, with innovation, and not behind innovation, and not behind technological progress and development. So ethics can be retrofitted, but it needs to be built into AI systems from the very beginning. Because retrofitting ethics fails because design decisions are already locked in. If the technology is developed, commercial incentives discourage change, and harm may already have occurred. So ethics is not a final, shouldn't be considered a final checklist, but it must shape the development process itself, from data collection to algorithmic design and user interfaces. But we should also be aware that artificial intelligence is hard to regulate, because several factors make it difficult for governments and institutions to regulate artificial intelligence effectively. And these factors are rapid innovation, global reach, technical complexity, and corporate secrecy. Because technology evolves faster than the legal system can respond, of course. And AI systems apply across borders while laws remain national. Many regulators lack the expertise to understand how AI systems work properly. And lastly, tech companies do not disclose how they algorithms really function, and this makes oversight extremely hard. So these challenges call for new regulatory models that should be flexible, cross-disciplinary, and international in scope. But yeah, the fact is that we need ethical integration within the technological development, and we must move beyond treating ethics as a separate field. But ethics should be integrated into the artificial intelligence lifecycle. So developers and engineers should work with ethicists, legal experts, and social scientists from the start of the development of AI systems. We should foster an ethics by design perspective, which involves anticipating risks, involving users, and ensuring fairness in data and models. And also participatory design should be fostered because it ensures that those affected by AI systems have a voice in how AI systems themselves can be built. So this is these three approaches represent a possibility for moving from theoretical ethics to practical responsibility, and this can be maybe better understood in this case study. Artificial intelligence in deployment, broadly, how it works, because companies use artificial intelligence to filter, for example, resumes or rank candidates, but these two actions entail risks, such as training data may favor certain genders, schools, or ethnicities. Algorithms may penalize candidates for irrelevant reasons, gaps in employment, or, for example, or names. The different names also can steer how algorithms respond, and also decisions are often opaque. So applicants don't know why they are rejected. And the conclusion is that without transparency and fairness checks, AI can undermine equal opportunity in the job market. So why do we need to regulate AI? Because as AI becomes more powerful and widespread, it raises also serious questions about safety, privacy, and human rights. And so regulation is essential. We need to prevent harm, ensure accountability and transparency, promote fairness and non-discrimination, and protect democracy and fundamental freedoms. And so, sorry, regulation helps transform AI from a black box technology into a trustworthy tool. And this trustworthy is a central concept because the European Union promulgated the guidelines for a trustworthy artificial intelligence, published by the high-level group expert on artificial intelligence. And these were among the first major policy efforts to define ethical AI, or better, trustworthy AI. And these guidelines are divided in are built on four ethical principles: respect for our human autonomy, prevention of harm, fairness, and exploitability. And the purpose of these guidelines are manifold. The first one is offering a framework for designing trustworthy AI. The second one, guiding policymakers, researchers, and companies before binding laws existed. And these guidelines lay the foundation for later EU regulations, such as the AI Act. Another important document that we should mention here are the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of AI. Indeed, UNESCO was the first United Nations agency to adopt a global standard on the ethics of AI in 2021, ratified by 193 member states. The key features addressing biases, discrimination, and misinformation, promoted data governance, inclusiveness, and environmental sustainability, and this represented a call for ethical impact assessments and public participation. And why these recommendations are so important? Because they offer a universal ethical baseline and encourages different countries to align policies with human dignity and rights, of course, policies concerning technological development. At the EU level, important is the Data Governance Act, which is crucial to building ethical AI systems. The main objectives of this act are facilitating data sharing across sectors and countries within the European Union, creating a trust framework for public and private data use, and promote data altruism and protect citizens' data rights. It matters for AI because high quality, representative, and transparent data is essential for fair and effective artificial intelligence. And the Data Governance Act supports the creation of data spaces for training reliable and trustworthy AI systems. So we can understand the relationship between the Data Governance Act and the act that we will see in a moment, that is the Artificial Intelligence Act, which is the world's first legally binding regulation for artificial intelligence. Is based on a risk-based approach from minimal to unacceptable risk. It bans dangerous uses like social scoring and manipulative AI. It offers strict rules for high-risk systems. We will delve into that in the section 4 of this class. And it focuses on human oversight, transparency, and accountability. Of course, all of these represent the first regulation and the position of the European Union as a global leader in the ethical and responsible AI. Of course, there are some global challenges because the pace of innovation is faster than the legal processes and the definition of normative frameworks, of course, and laws. There are different political models that maybe are not compatible with the different regulations. And enforcement gaps are important, such as well as a lack of global consistency. So what we need for moving forward is a stronger international coordination, investment in AI literacy and civic capacity, and inclusion of ethicists, citizens, and marginalized voices in the tech governance. So from this first section, there are some key points. AI creates both known and emerging risks, many of which impact people's fundamental rights. Ethical frameworks and laws have failed to keep up. So, and this is represented by the concept of the chasing effect. Ethics must be proactive and not reactive, and true responsibility requires integrating ethics within the design, development, and deployment and evaluation of AI systems. So the next step is explore how institutions like the European Union have tried to formalize these the ethical principles for a trustworthy AI. And this is what we are going to do now. What is the high-level expert group on AI? It is a group that was established by the European Union Commission in 2018 with the goal of supporting the implementation of a European strategy on AI to make it trustworthy, human-centered, and ethically grounded. And the second goal was to propose guidelines for developers, users, and policymakers. And the main contribution indeed are the guidelines, the ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI, published in 2019, defining principles and requirements to guide the responsible development for trustworthy artificial intelligence. The fourth principles are respect for human autonomy, prevention of harm, fairness, and explicability. And the first one affirm that AI should enhance and not replace human decision-making. The second one, that AI systems must avoid harm and protect human dignity. Fairness states that AI systems should ensure an equal treatment and prevent discrimination, while explicability refers to the fact that AI must be transparent, explainable, and understandable. And so these principles have been outlined and identified because they are universal. They can be applied across all domains of AI use. So the first principle, which is the respect for human autonomy, means that AI must respect individuals as autonomous moral agents. This means that humans should always have the ability to understand and influence how AI decisions are made. So the human The human person should remain at the center, and there must be a possibility for human intervention in critical decisions in which AI systems are deployed, such as healthcare or justice. And indeed, the key safeguards are the relates to the creation of human-in-the-loop systems in which the human can always enter in the mechanisms of the artificial intelligence system, and the right to contest algorithmic decisions. So the goal is ensure that AI supports and empowers human choices. The second principle is prevention of harm, and so AI systems must be safe, secure, and ethically robust. So the types of harm to prevent are physical, psychological, and societal harms, such as disinformation, of surveillance abuse. And the key measures to prevent AI harm are cybersecurity protection, risk assessments and safety testing, and emergency plans for failures. The goal of this principle is developing an artificial intelligence that is trustworthy and accountable under pressure. The third principle is fairness. AI must be designed to treat all individuals fairly. And the core ideas, of course, are avoiding discrimination based on gender, race, religion, age, and all of these sensible features. And the second idea is ensuring equal access to the AI technology and their benefits. So to implement this principle, we need to foster bias, audits in datasets, inclusive datasets, and design teams and feedback mechanisms for users to report unfair outcomes. And the goal of this principle is promoting social justice, accessibility, and algorithmic fairness and equity. The third principle, the fourth principle is explainability. AI systems should be transparent and understandable to users and stakeholders. And this principle matters because people need to understand how and why a decision was made. Yeah, especially in high stakes areas, you can imagine a doctor using an artificial intelligence system for identify some diseases. So the doctor needs to understand how the suggestions, how the recommendations are made and on what they are based. And so there are three dimensions of explicability: transparency, traceability, and explainability. And the goal of this principle is enabling accountability, trust, and informed consent. But are these principles enough? While these principles are valuable, they are not legally binding because the ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI are thought as a recommendation for companies, and they are not legally binding, and so don't automatically shape how AI systems are built, but they just tried to steer a path for responsible development of artificial intelligence. Of course, there are some problems, such as that principles are often vague and open to interpretation. There is no enforcement practice, so no guarantee of compliance, and the risk of ethic washing, that is using ethics language without a real commitment. This is a risk that can be implemented, let's say, by companies. And the conclusion is that we need to translate ethical principles into operational design and legal standards. But we can move from principles to practice. So how do we make ethics work? There are two important approaches. Ethics by design, that means embedding ethical reasoning into each stage of AI lifecycle, from data collection to the design of algorithmic systems and to their development and of course also their use. An example is designing a chatbot that avoids reinforcing stereotypes. So If we manage to design this kind of chatbot, then we are acting at the design level. And the second approach is participatory design that involves, that means that people affected by the AI system, such as vulnerable groups, for example, are included in the design process. So their voices are listened and are included, their points are included within the design of AI systems. And this ensures that diverse perspectives, values, and needs are represented within the design. And so the outcome is that if we follow these two approaches, the outcome is that an AI system is not only efficient, but also just, inclusive, and trustworthy. And to make this principle effective, 7 ethical requirements have been identified. The first one is human agency and oversight. So AI must empower human agency and not replace it or bypass it. Humans should retain meaningful control over artificial intelligence, especially in high-stake areas. Systems should enable intervention, override, and review of AI decisions, and respect for fundamental rights must be built in the design of artificial intelligence systems. We can make 2 examples. The first one is that a doctor should always have the final say in an AI-assisted diagnosis, and that judges should understand and be able to question the outputs from risk assessment tools. The second requirement is technical robustness and safety. AI system must be technically reliable and resilient under normal extreme conditions. This includes robustness, security, fallback systems, and reproducibility. That means that the results of AI systems should be consistent across tests. And the goal of this requirement is ensuring trustworthiness through engineering excellence and system stability. The third requirement is privacy and data governance, because users' data must be handled with care, transparency, and legal compliance to the GDPR. There are key points such as data quality and integrity, meaning the data used to train artificial intelligence systems must be accurate, complete, and relevant. Lawful processing, consent must be informed and revocable. Usage must respect privacy law, as I said, such as the GDPR, and user control. That means that users should know what kind of data is collected and have the ability to access, delete, or manage this kind of data. The implication of this requirement is that ethics and compliance are not separable in trustworthy, if we want to achieve a trustworthy artificial intelligence. The fourth requirement is transparency, meaning that the AI must not be a black box, and people must understand as much as possible how artificial intelligence systems work. Transparency includes traceability, meaning that the documentation of data sources, model choices, and design decisions must be available. Explainability, that is the ability to explain how an output was generated in understandable terms, so for not just for engineers, but for the wider public, and communication. Users should be informed when they are interacting with artificial intelligence systems. And the outcome, if this requirement is respected, is that users and regulators can scrutinize the system when necessary. The fifth requirements is diversity, non-discrimination, and fairness. AI should reflect and support all the diverse aspects and voices of our society. And to implement this requirement, we need a bias mitigation strategy to identify and address unfair partners in data sets and outputs, accessibility of AI systems, ensuring that systems work for people with disability or in different cultural contexts, or favoring the vulnerable groups more broadly, and we need a stakeholder engagement, because these involve communities, minorities, and all the affected users in design and the review of AI systems. So the goal of this requirement is that inclusive and trustworthy artificial intelligence should promote social justice and avoid harm to vulnerable groups, which are the groups that are mostly affected in a negative way by artificial intelligence systems. And the sixth principle requirement, is that refer to sustainability. That might be societal or environmental. And indeed, AI must contribute to a better world that is socially and ecologically. There are some key considerations. Sustainability, because it reduces. We need to reduce carbon footprint of AI systems, because large language models required a huge amount of energy. We need to consider the social impact of artificial intelligence systems to avoid reinforcing inequality or undermining democratic institutions. And these AI systems should be for the public good. So AI should aim at enhancing health, education, and collective well-being. So aligning artificial intelligence systems development with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is extremely important. And these SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, define, let's say, the final how an AI system should be developed in order to respect society in all of these possible understandings. And the seventh requirement is accountability. So there must be a clear responsibility for AI decisions and outcomes. It requires auditability, responsibility allocation, and mechanisms for redress. And the first one concerns systems that should be inspectable by third parties, such as regulators or auditors. The second one, that developers, deployers, and users must know their roles when using an artificial intelligence system. And the third one, that people must be able to contest, appeal, or report harmful outcomes. So the bottom line is that no artificial intelligence should operate without human accountability. All of these requirements are not just isolated, but they often interact or even conflict. An example, indeed, if we want to develop, if we want to respect these requirements, we should also cope with some trade-offs, because transparency might be in contrast with a perfect privacy, a perfect respect of the privacy requirement, because making a model explainable might require exposing sensitive training data. Or if we want to enhance fairness, then maybe accuracy might be diminished, because reducing biases might reduce the performance on certain metrics. And so this is why also these requirements, the definition of these requirements have been in a certain way contested, but we need companies to navigate this kind of trade-off in a transparent and inclusive way. And we need to involve stakeholders in making a value-based design choices. So even if there are we should cope with these kind of trade-offs, we should make it in a responsible way. There are, of course, many design implications from this, from the outline of these 7 requirements. That ethics is not an abstract philosophy, but it is going to influence technical decisions. And concrete design touchpoints can be reduced to data collection, model selection, and interface design. So what is gathered, from whom, and with what consent? Does the model promote fairness or just optimize performance? Are users aware of how the system works? Can they opt out? So if we want an ethical design, then we will achieve a better design. This is the scope of the ethic guidelines for trustworthy AI promoted by the European Union. And so we have set up 7 requirements to transform ethical principle into concrete expectation for trustworthy AI. And these cover everything from safety, privacy to inclusion and accountability. The guidelines are, as I said, not binding, and their impact depends on adoption, regulation, and public pressure. But this is important. I wanted to focus on this first document by the European Union, because this represented the base for the definition of the Artificial Intelligence Act, which is the first comprehensive legal framework in the world specifically focused on regulating artificial intelligence. It was proposed in 2021, and then made it effective in 2024 to ensure that AI technologies used in Europe are safe, transparent, in the European Union, of course, are safe, transparent, ethical, and respect fundamental rights. The key objectives of this act are establishing a common set of rules across EU countries, protect human rights and democratic values from harmful or unregulated AI systems, and promote trust in artificial intelligence. And the regulation builds on a risk-based approach to classify AI systems based on their potential harm. We can now define, understand the categories of risk in which the Artificial Intelligence Act is based on. There are some prohibited uses of artificial intelligence, uses in which AI is considered unacceptable due to the severe risk they pose to fundamental rights. High-risk AI applications that have a significant impact on people's lives or rights. Limited risk AI systems that present moderate risks but must be transparent to users. And then minimal risk in which, there are, these refer to low-risk AI, artificial intelligence, and everyday applications with no specific regulatory obligations. In which no regulatory obligations apply to these kind of AI systems. And this layered model allows the European Union to balance innovation with safety and accountability. An example of prohibited artificial intelligence is social scoring systems, so wherein individuals are rated or ranked based on behavior. This is not possible anymore. Subliminal manipulation, that AI influences users' behavior or choices without their awareness, especially if it causes harm, and the exploitation of vulnerable groups, where AI manipulates their behavior or decisions. These systems are not allowed under any other condition. The high-risk AI applications include biometric identification systems. For example, we can think during the COVID time, to enter many public places, there were some camera trying to detect if we had fever or not, and we had to put our face in front of a camera, and this is an example of biometric identifications, and this is a high-risk AI applications. Another one is credit scoring tools used by banks to determine creditworthiness, AI in hiring, resume screening or automatic interview analysis, automatic grading systems in schools and university, and predictive policing, algorithms that suggest where crimes are likely to happen or who might commit them. So these are all high-risk AI applications, and they should respect very high standards to be commercialized. Indeed, they have legal requirements for these high-risk systems, conformity assessments, documentation and logs for traceability, human oversight mechanisms to intervene if it is needed, and must meet standards of accuracy, robustness, and cybersecurity. Limited risk. AI applications should respect some transparency obligations. An example of these AI application are chatbots that simulate human conversation or recommender algorithms used in social media, shopping platform, or streaming services. The obligation include that users must be clearly informed when they are interacting with AI systems, and that the AI purpose, capabilities, and limitation must be communicated clearly. So in this sense, transparency, because communication, as we saw, is a subset of transparency. So this supports users' autonomy and informed consent, even in lower risk scenarios. And then minimal risks, for example, spam filters for email, AI opponents in video games, or AI for photo editing or grammar suggestions. Because these, of course, minimal risk, because these systems do not pose any significant risk to safety or rights. And yeah, it is important because this category of minimal risks also leaves room for experimentation and innovation. There are some enforcement mechanisms to make the AI Act effective. Each European Union country will designate a national supervisory authority to enforce compliance to the AI Act. An independent market surveillance agency will monitor high-risk AI deployments. So why this legislation matters? Because it provides clarity and stability for AI developers and businesses across the entire European Union. It increases user trust in artificial intelligence by making systems more transparent and accountable. It defends core democratic values such as equality, freedom, and privacy, and it strengthens the European Union's position as a leader in the ethical technology regulation. And these are some final thoughts, because if the pace, as we saw, of technological development is exponential, then regulation and ethics should not struggle to keep up. So the AI Act is a major step forward in this sense, but of course more is always needed. An ongoing dialogue between governments, tech companies, citizens, and ethicists must be put in practice. Investment in education and digital literacy to empower the public, and international collaboration to avoid regulatory fragmentation. So to be trustworthy AI, we need both strong laws and deep values. And the Artificial Intelligence Act aims at making sure that AI serves humanity and not just markets or machines. We are now at the end of our class. I want to leave you with these final questions. Why is relying only on the ethical principles problematic in AI governance? What is the key challenge in regulating artificial intelligence globally? And who should ideally be involved in designing ethical AI systems? I will provide you with the answer to these questions only after the course. So I hope that everything was clear, and these are some selected references that are the base for all these debate about artificial intelligence, trustworthy artificial intelligence, and normative regulations. Thank you, and see you in our next class.